All right, it's time to laugh at Ben Shabibo, and that's what we should do. We should only have to laugh at this little debate lord Andy, who thinks that, well, probably doesn't even think he knows what he probably knows that he's pretty dumb, or he knows exactly what he's saying to the right people, because his arguments are generally not even arguments. They're just talking fast. And then you have these little debate lord Andys walking around throwing out his rhetoric, thinking that they're so smart. And so that is our important goal, is to, when we see Ben Shapiro in front of others, laugh at him. If someone has it on their screen, laugh at him. Not the person watching at Ben Shabibo himself. Because we got to make sure, that's what we have to do with these people, is like, silencing is only really going to go so far, deplatforming, and there's, goods and bads about deplatforming and what that entails. But, goods and bads. But, no matter what, I think that what's even more important is just to deconstruct these arguments or laugh at them as much as possible, because they're not even really arguments, or they're not good arguments. We need to have others see that this is not somebody to take seriously. So, on we go.
Joe Biden did a commemorative event for 500,000 American lives lost to COVID-19. Obviously, that is a massive tragedy. Every one of those lives lost is indeed a tragedy. And the goal here was really twofold. One was for him to demonstrate empathy. As you will see, this is the Biden line, right? This is the line all throughout the campaign, is that Donald Trump had no empathy, but Joe Biden is a man of empathy. And this is what the media like about him, is that he is capable of emoting. I mean, that is his, right. It's just...
You are correct, Ben. He is capable of emoting, which is better than what Trump had, which was, he was plenty fine at emoting. He was just an asshole in the way that he emoted. But yeah, I mean, he's not completely wrong by the fact that it's part of why they liked him. And they definitely sold him as the empathetic guy. And I'm willing to bet that Joe Biden is more empathetic and thoughtful than Donald Trump. But that's not also a very high bar, is it? I'm not necessarily saying that he is the most caring and supportive guy out there, because otherwise they would have made sure this minimum wage increase was in the COVID bill. They would have made sure to do $2,000, not $1,400 stimulus. So yes, from here, Ben, I absolutely agree. But let's face it, he was definitely much more palatable than Donald Trump.
This thing. Now, I'm not saying it's not genuine. Sure, I'll give him that. I'm sure that a lot of his emotion is genuine. That's fine. Emotion doesn't happen to solve problems. Very often, emotion gets in the way.
Facts don't care about your feelings. Emotion does not solve your problems.
Of solving problems, and I don't judge presidents on how much empathy they have. I judge presidents on how well they do in doing the things they're supposed to do.
I don't care whether my has a whole thing where he says like empathy can be bad. Even it's very odd.
Plumber has empathy. I don't care whether my lawyer has empathy, and I don't care whether the president has empathy. I've been clear about this since the get-go. In fact,
hold on.
Emotion gets in the way of solving problems, and I don't judge presidents on how much empathy they have. I judge presidents on how well they do in doing the things they are supposed to do. I don't care whether my plumber has empathy. I don't care whether my lawyer has empathy, and I don't care whether the president has empathy.
So his list in range, in order that he said them, are jobs that so it was plumber, lawyer, and president. You know, the three social classes. But he said, I don't care if my plumber has empathy, I don't care if my lawyer has empathy, and I don't care if my president has empathy, which is insane. I mean, honestly, like I said, from from his first to his last, I actually view it as they should have more empathy. A plumber, whatever, man, they're just there doing their job. It'd be cool if they could have a little bit of empathy so that they know who they're working with, so they're not, you need to have empathy in some form of customer service. Maybe it helps you provide better care, better services when you're a little bit empathetic to the people that you're serving. With a lawyer, more so, because, and it defends either way, but for a prosecutor, yeah, empathy can go a long way into understanding the potential criminal or criminal and how to treat them, or even how to, help them, which that's not the job of a prosecutor, but then looking at a defense attorney or a public defense attorney, yeah, I really do hope that they have empathy. That's generally why people are in those jobs specifically, why they went to law school and paid a fuck ton of money to go to law school to then make not much money at all being a public defender. And then there's the president. I would really, surely fucking hope that we could get one day, that would be real nice, a president with empathy. And I'm sure some of them have. I'm sure Joe Biden does. I am sure Barack Obama did. Hell, I'm sure George Bush even did. I don't think Trump does, because he's very clearly a narcissist. And I'm not saying in like a colloquial sense, like I think that he has some ability issues cognitively, and I think part of that is his not narcissism. But that empathy does not make, they didn't have a ton of empathy. They had enough to say what they needed to say to connect, maybe pass some useful legislation every now and then. But generally, our politicians don't have enough empathy. Our politicians, our presidents, our senators, our representatives, our mayors, our governors, the mayor from Colorado City, Texas, really probably should have had some empathy when he talked shit on the people in his town for needing a handout when they had no power. The sign of a good leader is to have empathy. One of the signs. You need to be able to understand who you're leading. You need to be able to understand their problems to address them so that they are in the military, for example. You need to understand the problems that your soldiers, sailors, airmen, or Marines might have at home. If they're struggling with things at home, if they're struggling with depression, if they're struggling with suicidal thoughts, for that matter, you need empathy to make sure that they're okay. And really, honestly, the breaking it down Barney style, is what we'd say in the military, breaking it down Barney style, that empathy, other than it's just the good human thing to do, and you should, but B, it actively helps you make sure that your those that follow you, those that you lead, are in tip-top shape. Because if someone dies because of depression or suicidal thoughts, or and they act on that, that's one less person in the fight. If you're not checking in on them and they, you don't really care much about some pretty obvious alcohol issues or domestic issues, do you think that person's 100% where they need to be? No. That's less prepared. The same thing goes with a president, except for the difference is he is a leader and he is also a servant, the servant of the people, right? And part of their job as a president is to understand the woes of the people, to understand what needs to be done, to understand what needs to be addressed and fixed. So yes, I definitely, most definitely, Ben, want my president to have some fucking empathy. Honestly, what I really want is to have way more empathy than we've ever had in office, because it's never been enough to overcome the greed and the bullshit that these companies buy out our politicians with. So, no, Ben.
I've been clear about this since the get-go. In fact, there are good studies to show that sympathy is useful in politics because it allows you to think about a wide variety of people who are not you, but empathy is actually a problem. Empathy is where you put yourself in somebody else's shoes. Sympathy is where you sympathize with somebody else's positions. Empathy makes you elevate certain people above other people because you're empathizing with them, right? So empathy can actually be a problem in politics. There's a great book called Against Empathy by a psychologist all about this, about how it infuse.
I'm pretty sure the data that he pulls up on this is a little questionable. I don't know for sure. I want to check it up. I've heard him use this talking point before, though. Against rap. The seemingly lost Ben Shapiro. I'm curious if they, Media Matters, takes a look at the study or can link to it. Well, actually, I don't know if it's even a study. It was just in this psychologist's book, which, if that's the case, though, that doesn't mean much either. It's just a guy's thoughts unless he tested them. So, let's see. So Morgan Freeman led off the season with a bizarre, meaningless video about empathy, yes. Because, of course, the implication is that if you disagree with kneeling for America's systemic racism, you are not empathetic, right? That is the goal of this particular video. Yeah, I remember him going over a little bit of this. Uh-oh. Turn on. So, but the goal here, of course, not to generate empathy. Okay, is that all? Or is this reporting on it? Well, guys, that's not really helpful now, is it? I get, like, that's just reporting it with, like, no context at all. Dude, I'm hungry. I have not eaten today. I forgot to. Let's just check out the book. Paul Bloom. The distinction between empathy and compassion and moral decision-making. Bloom argues that empathy is not the solution to problems that divide people and is a poor guide for decision-making. Mixed reviews. The New York Times questioned some of Bloom's assertions, but called the book an overt, joyful conversation with readers. The Guardian agreed with Bloom's case for rational compassion on the basis that rational compassion was more valuable than empathy. Okay. Seems like there might have been some assertions made, but it doesn't sound like that there was really sounds like there's any it sounds like there's a lot of assertions, not necessarily studies in this, but I mean, he is a psychologist, but butter, no parsnips. Feeling your pain is all well and good, but not necessarily the best trigger of an effective moral response. Indeed, he argues that an ability to intuit another's feelings might well be an aid to some dubious moral behavior, although that possibly, but I mean, I don't have data on this, so a low score on the empathy index is commonly believed to be a feature of psychopathy, but many psychopaths are supremely able to feel as others feel, which is why they make good torturers. Bloom cites the character of O'Brien in Orwell's 1984. Well, that's kind of a weird citation if you're citing a fictional character whose capacity is to discern his victim's response and is exquisitely refined. You are afraid, said O'Brien, watching his face, that in another moment something is going to break. Your special fear is that it will be your backbone. You have a vivid mental picture of vertebrae snapping apart and the spinal fluid dripping out of it. Jesus. This is not. This is what you were thinking, is it not, Winston? It is through this facility that O'Brien can divine Winston Smith's greatest dread, a fear he himself has never articulated. Rats, and deploy it to destroy him. Bloom, it should be said, is not in favor of an indifferent heartlessness. Indeed, his trenchant stand against empathy is an attempt to encourage us to think more accurately and more effectively about a relationship to our moral terms. He pins his colors to the mast of rational compassion rather than empathy. What does necessarily rational compassion mean, though? And it is a central tenet of the book's argument, I think a correct one, that there exists a confusion in people's minds about the meaning of the two terms. The mirroring of another's anguish is not, Bloom would claim, the principal source of kindness, a quality that he is supremely in favor of. It is not empathy, he argues, that leads one to spring to the rescue of a drowning child or necessarily give to charity. Indeed, an over-identified response to another's parlous situation could well lead to paralysis and inaction, or, in causing an additional personal distress, only add to the general sum of human woe. Where still, kindness motivated by empathy often has bad effects. On that note, he is interesting on the subject of parenting, pointing out that good parenting involves coping with the short-term suffering of your child. An over-identification with one's child's unhappiness can be disabling to both parent and the child, and it might be longer-term benefit to your child to bear for a time the nasty cold of the swimming bath or the dentist's chair. He points out that a doctor who felt their patient's pain would be unlikely to be able to do their job. Picture a surgeon empathizing with your cancer as she cuts out your tumor. Nor, a rather different point, is empathy what we necessarily want. I recall the indignation I felt when, having had my wallet stolen, I was subjected to a victim's visit. From the local crime unit, a patronizing and irritating substitute I felt for anyone actually tracking down my lost credit cards. Okay. So, I mean, the biggest thing I think that's really important to take away from this is it really has no bearing on his point. Shapiro's bringing up empathy, I believe, which is probably going to come down to why we shouldn't help minorities or marginalized groups more, and that we shouldn't use quote-unquote equity, but equality, even though doing it the equal way does not provide equal opportunity, right? But the problem here, though, is what he's bringing up. Empathy is not always good for politics. However, no one is like talking about so much of an extreme empathy that this person is feeling exactly what you feel, and generally it would be more sympathetic, which he even said is fine, right? Or rational compassion. No one's going out here really conflating the idea that Joe Biden or anyone else feels all of the sum total of all black experience of like a black person in America, or that he fully understands a woman's pain of being thrown into a underclass in society. He's not saying that. And I don't think anybody is. So he's making a straw man here.
how in politics it's kind of a problem. In any case, Joe Biden does this event, and in the middle of the event, he basically is the goal of the event is not only to demonstrate empathy, but then to suggest that people who disagree with his agenda, that people who don't agree with the way he's approaching policy are non-empathetic. Right? That is what politics usually is trying to create a level of moral superiority for yourself and make your opponents seem morally inferior. So Joe Biden does.
He's not completely wrong. And this is probably not so untrue for Biden. I didn't see exactly him saying that, necessarily saying empathy, but he probably did. I mean, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black quote. I think it's a good example of maybe kind of what he's getting at here with rhetoric. But yeah, I mean, I'll admit that it's stupid rhetoric. But to have compassion, the part that is in the book that he cited, but so far has not brought up, is important. And we should value that and value those who are in our marginalized groups.
Does this event, and he says, for example, it's time to end the politics and the misinformation. Okay, as we've been talking about for weeks at this point, Joe Biden has been a chief purveyor of COVID misinformation since his accession to the office of president. He has put out the idea that there was no COVID plan. A lie. He suggested...
Okay. How do you know that that's a lie? Because, honestly, I'd probably believe Joe over here than Donnie Boy. Just because of who he is as a person and how things, it's not saying that any plan is going to be perfect, but the fact that it's been so fucking hard to even, like, my girlfriend, my partner, who has priority because she works with young kids, has still not been able to, like, it's so hard to go get seen and go get your vaccination unless you're like a healthcare worker. So, like, it's still, like, it's definitely easy to believe that there was no plan at all, and why wouldn't there be? So I don't know if this was a lie.
Said that the COVID vaccine plan did not exist. A lie. He has had people promoting the idea that teachers cannot go back to school safely right now. A lie.
Depends on the teachers, and more specifically, the age range that they're teaching at. I believe probably older than 3 or maybe 6. I think maybe it's after 10 that they, I believe like 3 to 5. Don't cite me on this. I know it's the younger years though, far less likely to get COVID and also not so likely to even spread, which is really good. But after a certain, like I think like 10 or something like that, it looks like, yes, you can both catch and spread it. And that includes teenagers, especially like middle schoolers and teenagers who may not get sick from it, but then they take it home to their maybe chronically ill grandmother at home, or mother, or not even, or just mom and dad at home. And especially though, if they come back and they're poor, meaning they more likely to live in a house with more family, then you're just spreading it to more people who then are going to go spread it towards others. So there is very valid reason to do this, if not only bringing up the fact that depending on what age you're working at, again, with children, that the teachers will get sick and some will die. So I'm not necessarily saying all schools. Sure, that I can agree with you on, Ben. That I can give you a concession. But this idea that just blanket stating that kids can go back without it being an issue is misinformation. Oh, damn. You can't see it because it's right behind my follower goal. But right here in his title, The Politics of Misinformation. So give me 1 second. I'm going to be right back. This is going to be part mukbang. Sorry.
The president of the United States has been overtly using teachers' union talking points and just shoving them into CDC standards, okay, which is disinformation.
Not teachers' unions talking points like being fearful of your life. That's quite the talking point. Real easy to remember.
And misinformation, as the left likes to say. Okay, but here is Joe Biden nonetheless saying that his opponents are the ones who are promoting politics and misinformation. He's the president. He doesn't get to do this routine anymore. Now's the time for you to actually do your job.
We must end the
He does get to do it if people like you, Ben, keep on going online. It's not the politicians that are the issue, Ben. It's people like you, like you and your contemporaries who have been railing against this for the last year and ignoring all of the science. I'm not going to say that they're not going to try and make things look better because it's also under them. Yeah, and that's good to call out. But there's still people like Governor DeSantis who fired someone, and then after they continued posting data and that did not correlate with by Governor DeSantis, the governor of Florida, and when it did not correlate with what they had presented to Florida residents, between that and apparently her hacking in somewhere, which she very much denies, they sent cops to her house and arrested her. So yeah, there's still people that are affecting this, that are mistreating it, that are really slowing us the fuck down. So yes, you still can do that, Ben, especially when state government, when federal government is limited, and states have a huge impact on how everyone else is affected. And there's Republican governors or mayors deciding how they want to take care of things. Yeah, no, you can still point towards people spreading misinfo, like you, Ben.
politics and misinformation that's divided families, communities, in the country.
True.
It's cost too many lives already. It's not Democrats and Republicans who are dying from the virus. It's our fellow Americans. It's our neighbors, our friends.
True.
Our mothers, our fathers, our sons, our daughters, husbands, wives. We have to fight this together as one people, as the United States of America.
Okay, that is such a string of platitudes. What does that mean?
Ben, really? Jesus. Oh my God, I don't want to stop this over and over again because it's just like, really? What does that mean? When, dude, he told you what it meant. It meant that everyone's affected by this. That's what it means. And it's, yeah, no, I mean, I don't know if they're actually going along with a good vaccine plan or how they're doing that. I know they're fucking over stimulus and other shit, so I don't want to give Joe a freebie here, but what he was saying is not untrue, so fuck me, I guess.
What does that mean? Can we get specific here? Yeah. If people are saying that you should go out and you should congregate with other people and there's no risk of COVID if you without vaccination or anything, and that you should not wear a mask and not socially distance, yeah, that's going to spread the virus. Okay, so if you say that, then that would be, and you say it's not going to spread the virus, that's misinformation. But if we are talking generally, as Joe Biden says, that misinformation is the cause of the virus spreading, I noticed something, which is that Andrew Cuomo, your favorite governor, literally lied to the American people, to his own constituents, to the families of people who died. He lied to his fellow Democratic legislators, and your administration won't even say that. And then you have the temerity to get up at one of these events and say something like, we have to stop the misinformation and the politics. I don't believe you. I don't believe that you.
He's not wrong about Cuomo. I mentioned in my other video, I think there are reasons that I understand why he may have held back that info, mainly because of Trump and the fact that he did not want to give New York any money when that's ridiculous. But it still was not the right thing to do. And he is right. He lied to people like me, to people who had their families die, or people in their family die. Absolutely. I am trying to look up right now if Biden has addressed it, though. So far, though, I have not heard much going in on it. I don't know where this is. Oh, it's NPR. Okay, let's. Okay. Tuesday in Albany, state Republican leaders said that the state Dems have blocked their efforts to hold the Cuomo administration accountable for the state's approximately 13,000 nursing home resident deaths, and now federal action is needed from the Biden administration. We need the U.S. Department of Justice, said Senate Minority Leader Robert Wirt, our North Tonawanda. I should know these places since I live in New York. We need the President's Justice Department to look into this, because I think that's the only way we're going to get the answers that we will continue to seek, and that there's the only way that the families who lost loved ones will get the information that they are rightfully owed. Much of the GOP's criticism centers around the last month's report of New York State Attorney General's office. The 76-page document found that Cuomo's March 25th executive order, which placed 6,300 COVID hospital patients into nursing homes, may have put residents at risk and led to more deaths. The report also confirmed that the State Department of Health undercounted nursing home COVID deaths by as much as 50%, but not including residents who died after being taken to a hospital. State Health Commissioner Dr. Howard Zucker subsequently revealed the death toll was about 40% higher when factoring in hospital deaths. There needs to be a full investigation of the findings of this report. Full investigation cannot be done at the state level. As Dems and their legislature supermajority have shielded Zucker and Cuomo from their accountability. Republicans alleged Tuesday, that's today, I believe. Republicans say Senator Tom O'Mara's microphone was turned off in the Senate Investigations and Government Operations Committee last week after he made a motion to subpoena Cuomo and Zucker. While State Senator, wow, if that's the case, that'd be crazy. While State Senator Sue Serino's motion to compel Zucker to testify before the Senate Aging Committee was ruled out of order Tuesday by the committee chair, Senator Rachel May. The only thing out of order seems to be the majority's lack of political will and courage to do anything on this issue. If this is accurate, then yes, that is very concerning. In denying Serino's motion, May Syracuse noted that Democrats on the Senate Health Committee were all allegedly introducing a package of nursing home bills, including a bill mandating the health commissioner be more transparent regarding nursing home deaths from COVID or any other communicable disease. In August, May told WBFO she opposed subpoenaing Zucker for the number of nursing home residents to die in hospitals because legislators need to have a relationship with the executive. True. Orton called Democrats' nursing home bills a good start, but said that they do not go far enough and don't do anything to hold the Cuomo administration accountable for its past policies. It's hard to determine the path forward if we don't know the full story of what happened and how we got here. New York's congressional Republicans have already formally asked for a Department of Justice investigation. Last week, they sent a letter asking the U.S. Attorney General Monty Wilkinson to subpoena Cuomo and Zucker for all their documentation and communication regarding nursing homes. Biden's press secretary, Jen Psaki, is that how you say her name? I don't know. Psaki said last month that the Justice Department alone will decide if an investigation of Cuomo's nursing home response is warranted. We're in the new age where they're independent and they will determine what path they take moving forward, Psaki said during a January 29th White House press briefing. So, when I first saw this come out, I saw it from the New York Post. There were some people that I liked that retweeted it. I don't really, if it's from the Post, I don't trust it. But since then, it seemed to have gained some steam. There seems to be some info about it. If what some of these Republicans said, and I don't trust Republicans, but if some of what they have said is true, like cutting their mic off and stopping them from forwarding motions for subpoena, yeah, that is very concerning. And it's incorrect. I would say that this goes against what Shapiro was saying about, and what Shabiba was saying about them not addressing it. I mean, so actually, here's what I feel on this. It's kind of like a mixed thing because they are addressing how it will be responded to. And I don't think it's wrong to hand it off to the Justice Department. But how do we know the Justice Department's not talking to Biden? And how do we know that this won't end in like a partisan play? And B, how do we know? This could easily just be a deflection, so Biden doesn't have to answer any tough questions, which I definitely could see them doing. So, yeah, I'd agree at least to an extent that it would be better to hear at least some opinions on Biden and at least saying like, hey, we don't like, if this is true, if this is the case, then yes, that's very wrong and, should be treated as such, but it's out of my control. We'll leave our very competent Justice Department in charge of that because I am a part of the executive branch and not the proper person to investigate this. I think that would be an appropriate way. The fact that they kind of just like, they'll figure it out, kind of Psaki saying it. I can kind of see where Shapiro is coming from here, but it's not really accurate. It's kind of like a half-truth what he's saying here, as per usual.
You were interested in that, President Biden. I wish that I believed you, but I don't. But again, the goal here is just to get the media to cry over him, which he did successfully. Here was CNN's John King saying, he's empathetic. That's really the thing that matters is the empathy, the empathy, the empathy. You know what I noticed is actually more important than the empathy? Reopening the schools and getting people the vaccines they need. And also not telling people that the vaccine is not going to allow us to get back to regular life. You want to talk about putting out misinformation? How about the idea that we...
Okay. I know where he's going with this, and it's wrong. We already addressed the school thing, so let's skip over that. But, so yeah, no, we know we can't go back to schools. That could be very dangerous. Vaccines, getting it out. You're right. That is very correct. What you were saying about having to wear masks after is incorrect. We will have to wear masks after. Boo-hoo. That doesn't mean that we're going to have to be in sterilized bubbles or not even necessarily 6 feet apart all the time. Things will loosen up. Things will change. We will adapt like we have so far this past year. No one is saying that you have to wear 3 masks or anything like that, right? The CDC director, even before our vaccine was out, said that the most effective thing is going to be mask wearing, not the vaccine. Because let's face it, not everyone's going to get a vaccine. And the other, you can potentially And I believe one has been shown to possibly get rid of contagious cells, but I don't know if that's still under research. But at least the two main ones have not been researched yet. We don't know. Meaning a vaccine can help you with your immunity and give you at least a stronger immunity. Immunity also is kind of a bit of a misnomer because it's more of an immunity, right? You've trained your cells to recognize this virus cell so that they can attack it appropriately when it comes in, right? Sometimes you may still get sick. You can still get the flu even though you've had your flu shot, right? But what he's saying here, we don't know if these other vaccines will stop and recognize COVID. However, it could still possibly be transmutable, meaning they don't know if it will kill the ones that are in your mouth and nose. So you may not get it, but you could still then, even worse, feel more comfortable and better off seeing Granny or whatever and still pass it on. So yes, the data is totally against him here. The fact that there's really not data yet. And you know what? Maybe we do some research and find out that it does. And then, yeah, maybe all we'll need is vaccines. But you get your vaccines, wear your fucking mask because you're not a fucking grown-ass baby. And a little bit of cloth over your face doesn't ruin your life. Wear it for a little bit longer through the summer. We're going to get there. Going into the next year, we'll start wearing it less and less. And you know what? Probably, and I hope it does unless they stick around, when people are sick, they'll wear masks, kind of like they do in Asia. I think that would be great. Probably be a really good thing, and maybe people would be a little bit more understanding and respectful. So that's probably what will happen. And good. It should. This is just non-science, and it's just aggravating, trying to aggravate Ben's base here. And also look at that cranky little face. Oh, so cranky. So cute. Anyways.
That we believe that you're going to transmit the virus at the same rates whether or not you get the vaccine. Okay, that suggestion has been put out there. It is
a suggestion with showing, because there's no data to show that it won't. And you can, as for data against you, Ben, is that there are, in fact, other viruses that people can pass on the flu if they have the flu shot. People can pass on other diseases if they do. And guess what? It may not be at the same level, but it still might be at a bad level. That's not to say that it won't decrease more and more over time. But again, he's going at a non-science approach and then trying to just aggravate his base of supporters and watchers.
Absolutely evidence-free. That's misinformation. The vaccine does lower not only your risk of death to something like 99%, your risk of death goes down, your risk of serious illness goes down by like 95%, but also your risk of transmission goes down by something like 90%, according to the latest studies. It's misinformation to suggest.
Depends on the vaccine. One of them, I think, showed that it could do that. Not all the other ones that have been being used.
It's otherwise. But we don't care about that. All we care about is that Joe Biden is a caring person. He cares about you. Here's the thing. Let me just tell you a little secret. Joe Biden may be a caring person. The government doesn't care about you because the government doesn't know your name. You're a taxpayer. That's all the government cares. That's all the government cares about. You are just a tool for them. You're a widget.
Based, unironically, he's not completely wrong.
To the government. Now, Phil Gramm, the former senator from Texas, he was once told in a hearing that by some witness that witness cared about his children, and Phil Gramm said, "Really? What are their names?" That is exactly how you should respond. When someone from the government says, "I care about you," your first response should be, "No, you really don't. You care about me in the same way that a plumber cares about me paying him to fix my toilet." Why should we pretend that our politicians are the most caring and wonderful of people when we all know that this is precisely the opposite? But again, you have to promulgate the notion that Joe Biden is full of empathy so that you don't catch on to the fact that he's actually foolish. Here's John King from CNN.
Not untrue.
You have a president who is shaped, Joe Biden, whether you're a Democrat or Republican or an independent out there watching, he's been shaped by the personal tragedy in his own life. He understands what it is like for a family to suffer, for a family to lose, and for a family to have to get up and recover. And that's why this is his MO and his DNA, Wolf, to be an empathetic president and to not try to hide from these numbers. He inherited a mess from the Trump administration, but he is now accountable.
In what ways has he been held accountable by you in the media? Seriously, have you seen one headline holding Joe Biden accountable for the 100,000 Americans who have died since he took office? And every day there was a headline.
It is definitely a little silly that you're criticizing him for that now when we do know, in fact, that COVID was a botched mess by the Trump admin. So that's pretty ridiculous. Does Biden actually know pain and dealt with tragedy? Yeah, he has. He lost his son, and then his other sons dealt with a lot of addiction, and I believe he's lost other kids as well. Like, he definitely has dealt with tragedy, and I don't deny him being empathetic. There is a truth to what Ben is saying, but there are also people in the government that actually do give a shit. Not most, but, and that's what I want to change, right? That's what I think a lot of leftists want, is a government that is more representative of the actual people and that is caring for the people. It should be like that. And I think people like in the squad, like you'd see with like AOC or Ilhan Omar, I think these people and people like Bernie, I think those are people that actually really care. And again, I won't deny that Biden is empathetic or maybe even cares, but he cares about other things first, you know, and that's about democratic neoliberal power and keeping that status quo the same and lining his pockets as well. So,
like, it's unthinkable how many Americans, it's 83 Vietnam Wars that have happened under Donald Trump. 100,000 Americans have died since Joe Biden took office. I haven't seen one of those headlines, not one. But, you know, he's empathetic, so that's all that matters. Dana Bash did the same thing on CNN. You know, Trump was a very non-empathetic character, but we know that Joe Biden is empathetic. He's all empathy all the time.
What an event that the White House put on for the American people and for the world to memorialize the 500,000 people who have been taken by this virus. And, you know, I don't want to do a lot of looking back, but at almost the same location where his predecessor came back from the hospital having the virus himself and ripped off his mask. What a difference just a few months makes in having somebody who, as my colleagues have said, you know, wants to emote and to empathize and to sympathize and to grieve with this country.
Okay, I'm not looking for a psychologist. I'm not looking for a priest. I'm not looking for a
This is pretty groan-worthy, I won't lie. Ben's definitely right on that, but that's some lib shit. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, to an extent, yeah, I am happy that there's a more emotive or more less insane president. It doesn't make me fear to see what's been put on the internet every day by him. But yeah, otherwise, this is pretty libby type of celebrating some virtue signaling or optics, basically. So I'll give Ben that.
Rabbi, I'm looking for a guy who's actually going to do what he promised and crush the virus. He's not doing any of that stuff. In fact, he's enthralled to a bunch of people whose policies are completely non-empathetic because they don't actually care about Americans. Let me give you an example. Ro Khanna is a Democratic congressperson, and he says he was asked about minimum wage, right? The minimum wage is in the Joe Biden COVID relief bill. Here is his response about minimum wage killing small businesses. Does this sound empathetic to you? Because when it comes to the policy, this crap ain't empathetic. Here is Ro Khanna.
How does this, in your view, affect mom and pop businesses who are just struggling to keep their doors open, keep workers on the payroll right now?
Well, they shouldn't be doing it by paying people low wages. We don't want low-wage businesses. I think most successful small businesses can pay a fair wage. So I love small businesses. I'm all for it. But I don't want small businesses that are underpaying employees. It's fair for people to be making what they're producing. And I think $15 is very reasonable in this
Sounds
country.
empathetic. He knows how your business runs better than you do.
No, Ben's being real stupid on this one. He's not talking about if he knows how to run your business better than you do. No, but he is talking about the empathy. Remember, Ben, that the store owner is the one small, or the business owner is one small, minute fraction of what's actually being produced there and made there. Okay? And they're not all just big brain ideas. They're just the person that got there first. And they're not doing very much. So, no, it's a lot less about knowing how to run your business and more about empathy, Ben, about getting people a wage that they can actually live on. Because we are in short supply of that. And so many Americans are just a paycheck away to complete poverty and loss of shelter. So, no, this one's a very Dumbo take. He's trying to rely on a lot of emotion right here. Feeling of independence. You're like, know how to run my business, right? Make you feel like they're getting in your way, telling you what to do when no one's doing that. Especially most of the people that he's talking to here, that Ben's talking to, are not business owners and are low-paid workers.
And if you don't agree with him, he's perfectly happy for your business to go under.
When Ben is talking about the deaths from Corona and blaming Biden, that's like blaming the new guy because the CEO is screwing his secretary. Yeah, no, I agree. And that's kind of why I laughed at it. It was just like, well, kind of missing the whole point right now, that just because when Biden took over, and I saw this actually on Twitter, that they already, like, Trumpettes, little Trumpers started already, like, blaming Biden for all that day's deaths and, like, all the other deaths for some reason. But I will agree to the extent that there is a point when that obviously needs to stop, right? It's only been a month in, you know, hopefully, we also have an idea of that we should be fully vaccinated and things should be progressing hopefully by the end of the summer. So, you know, we know to at least look at this timeline, and hopefully things are progressing from then. But yeah, no, I mean, you definitely don't want to not criticize him. And this is a big trap that a lot of people get into, right? We backed Biden. We try and get someone like him in at least to get Trump out of there, right? And then everyone goes on the defensive now because the other side then goes on the offensive, always pointing something out. And your gut reaction may be to defend, like a sports team, that guy. The big thing is sometimes he deserves it, sometimes he doesn't, right? Biden still has a couple months to really, until we're getting the summer, where we can see progress and whatnot like that. And if we don't, and this is also where it needs to come in, we need to hold them accountable. And also not only that, but yeah, no, Biden is a shithead, or Biden is doing this, but then bring it to your reasoning, because the ones that they have are pure rhetoric and emotion. So we can do that by bringing into reasonable things that affect them, like our $1,400 stimulus check that should be $2,000, things like that. That's what we can address. And hello, Belfast boy. Sorry, I did see you there. I just wanted to get done with my rant. Welcome to the stream. We're talking about Ben Shabibo over here, and talking about his video on the politics of misinformation, which is cute coming from him, but
That's all that matters to him. Right? Sounds empathetic to you, doesn't it? Super empathy. Empathy. He's empathetic. He's empathetic. Also, if your business goes under, he doesn't care. Also, if your kid can't go back to school, he didn't care. You want to know what the actual underlying emotivism here is about? It is all about garnering sympathy for political positions that are completely non-empathetic. We all know this. The Biden administration is mirroring all of the priorities of the American Federation of Teachers when it comes to reopening schools. Here, by the way, is what the American Federation of Teachers president, Randy Weingarten, had to say about whether kids are going to recover from missing an entire year of school, not being with their classmates, experiencing significant mental health disorders. Really, I know many people who have had kids who are suffering with this sort of stuff. Here is the very empathetic Randy Weingarten on this topic.
I believe that kids are resilient.
Oh.
And kids will recover.
Oh.
But we as
sorry, the
adults
commentary,
have to meet their needs, their emotional needs, their social needs, their learning needs. And that's who America's educators are. But at the end of the day, we have to believe that this is recoverable. And we have to believe that virtually all our kids will thrive with the opportunities that we put before them.
Okay, so what she just said is F the kids. Okay, let me translate that.
That's not what she said, but there's truth to what Ben's saying here, and this is what he's really good at, right? I mean, he's pointing out certain facets that are reality and then going on and then often saying, well, this is what they mean by it. Like he's interpreting what they're saying, or because he's really skilled in punditry, right? And rhetoric. He's not wrong that kids are suffering from mental health issues from this, that there's going to be obvious decline in education. No, this is definitely not good for children to be out of school like this. It isn't. And it doesn't help with parents either. However, I agree that we have to get through it. And like she said, it has to be recoverable, because the other issue of that is if we lose more teachers, that doesn't just mean more jobs. If we lose teachers, then we're fucked after we've gotten through with this pandemic. After that, then we won't have enough educators. And then educators are even more understaffed and more under, well, they probably would still remain underpaid, but more understaffed and not have enough resources. I mean, let's be real. So yes, there is a reason to hold off, and it's not about fucking your children, because I bet you those people, those students, or excuse me, those teachers would much rather be in class. Most professors that I know, that I work with and talk with, want to be back in class. Every student I know wants to be back in class. Every teacher I know wants to be back in class. We are tired of Zoom. No one is denying that, Ben. Anyways, that's just stupid.
That very quickly, she said F the kids. That's what that meant. Okay, so for
So
all of the
aggressive.
empathy and the emotivism, what it really comes down to when it comes down to policy, it's which constituency can I please today? Recognize this is true for all of your politicians, Democrat, Republican, all of them.
Not
Anybody who
untrue.
looks for you want sympathy, get a dog. You want empathy, get married. You want your politicians to bring you these things. You're looking
Swear
for love in
half
all
of
the wrong
Ben's
places, and you deserve
answers
to have
to things are like
whatever
that, get
ridiculous
married.
policy they promote shoved down your face. Because if that's where you're looking for your love,
Sure is crying a lot for a guy who has a mug that says leftist tears.
my goodness, get a life, get a community, get friends. Did you know that every like on this video creates one additional leftist tier? Don't ask me why.
Oh my god. Oh, cringe. Oh my lordy.